Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe Radhe
One more.
Radhe Radhe
Gopinath Radhe Radhe.
Radha 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 Gopinath Radhe Radhe. Radha Gopinath Radhe Radhe.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances, all good Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our Bhagavad Gita Circle reading program. This evening we'll be continuing chapter 4, verse 35, and the chapter is entitled The Transcendental Knowledge, and it will be read and explained to us by His Grace Balabhadra Bhattacharya Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, all good Srila Prabhupada.
Can you hear me okay? Because I'm using a headset.
Yes, I think I can. Can
You can?
everyone
Okay.
hear Prabhu okay? You can give a thumbs up
Or a thumbs down, whichever one.
or thumbs up. Well, they just said yes, so I think we're good, Prabhu.
Okay, good. Okay. And let me begin by apologizing. I've had a little problem with my voice for the last few days, so I'm hoping I can make it through. If not,
Oh, no problem, Prabhu.
You may have to rescue me, okay?
No problem. I'll try.
Okay. Mao Vishwabhadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desakarne Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 text 35. Yadgatva no punar moham evam yashasi pandava yena bhutanya seshani draksha atmanyato mayi. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or, in other words, that they are mine. Report. The result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. The sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya, Ma, not Ya, this. Some think that we have nothing to do with Krishna, that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and that the Absolute is the impersonal Brahman. Factually, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, this impersonal Brahman is the personal effulgence of Krishna. Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. In the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. This thought is material in nature. We have experienced in the material world that a thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its own original identity. But the Mayavadi philosophers fail to understand that absolute means that 1 plus 1 equal to 1, and that 1 minus 1 is also equal to 1. This is the case in the absolute world. For want of sufficient knowledge in the absolute science, we are now covered with illusion, and therefore we think that we are separate from Krishna. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, we're nevertheless not different from him. The bodily difference of the living entities is Maya, or not actual fact. We're all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that the temporary bodily relationship with his kinsman was more important than his eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. The whole teaching of the Gita is targeted toward this end, that a living being, as Krishna's eternal servitor, cannot be separated from Krishna, and his sense of being an identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. The living entities, as separate parts and parcels of the Supreme, have a purpose to fulfill, having forgotten that purpose since time immemorial. They are situated in different bodies as men, animals, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. One can acquire such pure knowledge only from the bona fide spiritual master and thereby avoid the delusion that the living entity is equal to Krishna. Perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul, Krishna, is the supreme shelter for all living entities. And giving up such shelter, the living entities are deluded by the material energy, imagining themselves to have a separate identity. Thus, under different standards of material identity, they become forgetful of Krishna. When, however, such deluded living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 2.10.6. Muktir hi tvanyata rupam sarupena vyavastiti. Liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Krishna, Krishna consciousness. Wow. Text 36. Api ched asi papevya sarvevya papakritama sarvam jnana plave naiva vrijinam santarishasi. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of misery. Purport. Proper understanding of one's constitutional position in relationship to Krishna is so nice that it can at once can at once lift one from the struggle for existence, which goes on in the ocean of nescience. This material world is sometimes regarded as an ocean of nescience and sometimes as a blazing forest. In the ocean, however, however expert a swimmer one may be, the struggle for existence is very severe. If someone comes forward and lifts the struggling swimmer from the ocean, he is the greatest savior. Perfect knowledge received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the path of liberation. The boat of Krishna consciousness is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime. Yataidam si samidogmir basma satkurute arjuna jnanagni sarvakarmani bhasma satkurute tata. As a blazing fire turns fire with the ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Report. Perfect knowledge of the self and super self and of their relationship is compared herein to fire. This fire not only burns up all reactions to impious activities, but also all reactions to pious activities, turning them to ashes. There are many stages of reaction: reaction in the making, reaction fructifying, reaction already achieved, and reaction a priori. But knowledge of the constitutional position of the living entity burns everything to ashes. When one is in complete knowledge, all reactions, both a priori and a posteriori, are consumed. In the Vedas, Brihat Aranyaka Upanishad 4.4.22, it is stated, Ube Uhai Vaisha Ete Tara Yamrita Sadva Sadhuhi. One overcomes both the pious and impious reactions of work. Text 38. Nahi ganena sadrisam bhavitam iha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsida kalinadmani vindati. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself at the course of time. Report. When we speak of transcendental knowledge, we do so in terms of spiritual understanding. As such, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Ignorance is the cause of our bondage, and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. This knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service. And when one is situated in transcendental knowledge, he need not search for peace elsewhere, for he enjoys peace within himself. In other words, this knowledge and peace culminate in Krishna consciousness. That is the last word in the Bhagavad Gita. Text 39. Shradhava labhate jnanam tatpara samyatindriya jnanam labdva param shantim achirena vikachati. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains supreme spiritual peace. Purport. Such knowledge in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person who believes firmly in Krishna. One is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness he can attain the highest perfection. This faith is attained by the discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. Over and above this, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. Text 40. Agyas chashvadanascha samshayatma vinasati nayam lokosti paro naparo nasukam samshayatmana. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Report. Out of many standard and authoritative revealed scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita is the best. Persons who are almost like animals have no faith in or knowledge of the standard revealed scriptures. And some, even though they have knowledge of or can cite passages from the revealed scriptures, have actually no faith in these words. And even though others may have faith in scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, they do not believe in or worship the personality of Godhead through Krishna. Such persons cannot have any standing in Krishna consciousness. They fall down. Out of all the above mentioned persons, those who have no faith and are always doubtful make no progress at all. Men without faith in God and his revealed words find no good in this world, nor in the next. For them, there is no happiness whatsoever. One should therefore follow the principles of revealed scriptures with faith and thereby be raised to the platform of knowledge. Only this knowledge will help one become promoted to the transcendental platform of spiritual understanding. In other words, doubtful persons have no status whatsoever in spiritual emancipation. One should therefore follow in the footsteps of great acharyas who are in the disciplic succession and thereby attain success. Text number 41. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanchina samshayam atmavantam karmani nibananti dhananjaya. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. Purport. One who follows the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita as it is imparted by the Lord, the personality of Godhead itself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as a part and parcel of the Lord, in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above bondage to action. Text 42. Tasmad ajnana sambhutam pritstam jnana sinatmanah chitvainam samsayam yogam astito tishta bharata. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. Report. The yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatana Yoga, or eternal activities performed by the living entity. This yoga has two divisions of sacrificial actions. One is called sacrifice of one's material possessions, and the other is called knowledge of self, which is pure spiritual activity. If sacrifice of one's material possessions does not dovetail the spiritual realization, then such sacrifice becomes material. The one who performs such sacrifices with a spiritual objective or in devotional service makes a perfect sacrifice. When we come to spiritual activities, we find that these are also divided into two, namely, understanding of one's own self or one's constitutional position, and the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who follows the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is can very easily understand these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. For him, there is no difficulty in obtaining perfect knowledge of the self as part and parcel of the Lord. And such understanding is beneficial, for such a person can easily understand the transcendental activities of the Lord. In the beginning of this chapter, the transcendental activities of the Lord were discussed by the Supreme Lord himself. One who does not understand the instructions of the Gita is faithless and is to be considered to be misusing the fragmental independence awarded to him by the Lord. In spite of such instructions, one who does not understand the real nature of the Lord as the eternal, blissful, all-knowing personality of Godhead is certainly fool number one. Ignorance can be removed by gradual acceptance of the principles of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is awakened by different types of sacrifices. To the demigod, sacrifice to Brahman, sacrifice in celibacy, in household life, in controlling the senses, in practicing mystic yoga, in penance, in foregoing material possessions, in studying the Vedas, and in partaking of the social institution called Varnashrama Dharma. All of these are known as sacrifice, and all of them are based on regulated action. But within all these activities, the important factor is self-realization. One who seeks that objective is the real student of Bhagavad Gita. But one who doubts the authority of Krishna falls back. One is therefore advised to study Bhagavad Gita or any scripture under a bona fide spiritual master with service and surrender. A bona fide spiritual master is in the disciplic succession from time eternal, and he does not deviate at all from the instructions of the Supreme Lord, as they were imparted millions of years ago to the sun god, from whom the instructions of Bhagavad Gita have come down to the earthly kingdom. One should therefore follow the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is, expressed in the Gita itself, and beware of self-interested people after personal aggrandizement who deviate others from the actual path. The Lord is definitely the supreme person, and his activities are transcendental. One who understands this is a liberated person from the very beginning of the study of Bhagavad Gita. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the fourth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of transcendental knowledge. Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a nice reading. Would like to ask
Thank
devotees
you.
if any questions, any comments, any clarification. I do have one, Prabhu, and I'm trying to understand what
Okay.
that in this special purport, Srila Prabhupada says, in studying the Vedas and in partaking of the social institution called Varnashram Dharma.
Hmm.
Why is Varnashram Dharma called a social institution?
Varna Ashram. So Varna means the working classifications, and ashram are the spiritual classifications. So social, correct? You're on mute.
I missed your question, Prabhu. I'm sorry.
So you're talking about the term social institution, correct?
Yeah, why is that term used, social institution? Is it because it consists of the 4 varnas and the 4 ashram, and that's considered a social?
Yes, yes. In fact, what happens is people misunderstand Varnashram Dharma, and then Prabhupada said the Sanatan, it's the Sanatan eternal. We're discussing the eternal. So the Varnashram Dharma is only applicable in this material world. There's no Varnashram, there's no Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, Ganaprastha, Sannyasa. There's no sannyasis in Vaikuntha, okay? No brahmacharis in Vaikuntha. Everything is completely spiritual. So when Ramananda Roy replied to Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Chaitanya asked him about this, he replied with Varnashrama Acharvata, Purusena Pamatpamam, Vishnu Aradyate. And Lord Chaitanya said, that's nice, but go further. And he kept going higher and higher and higher to the spiritual platform. But that first understanding, Varnashram, is social. It's the way, as Srila Prabhupada describes it, the way society should be organized in a way that everyone has his position. The misunderstanding of an ashram is called the caste system. That's why people totally misunderstand it. They think, oh, you're putting people in different classifications. So Srila Prabhupada clearly explains, Krishna has created this. What is that verse in Bhagavad Gita? My brain is a little slow today. What is the Varnashram verse in Bhagavad Gita?
Maya system.
Yes, Chatur. Chaturvarnyam Maya Shristam, Guna Karma. Guna Karma. Your work and your birth. Guna, the mode that you're in and the work that you do. So that has been established by Krishna himself for the proper social organization. So within social organization, you have spiritual. Not only in the Vedic culture, and Srila Prabhupada says in all cultures, you will find intelligent class of men, martial class of men, productive class of men, and then working class of men. And then you'll find the very Brahminical class, like I said, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. And then you also find brahmacharis. The term brahmachari, we take it as a Vedic term, which it is, but there are many celibate persons. Like, for instance, in the Mormon church, I believe for 2 years, the young men have to practice celibacy. They have to go door to door preaching, all of that. So you find that. And in some Christian traditions, they say you should remain celibate until marriage. So you find that. And then you find the brahmachari grihastha. But see, grihastha is different from grihamedi. Grihamedi is a couple married for sense gratification. Grihastha is a couple that's working together for spiritual advancement. So brahmachari, excuse my voice, grihastha, vanapras, and then sannyas, the renounced order of life. So to your point on this, yes, it's a social institution, it's how society should be organized. I hope that made a little sense. You still there?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. Thank you so much. As you were speaking, I was remembering the verses that we were covering in class, I think right after Bhishma Dev quit his body, how Yudhishthir was running the kingdom so nicely because all the four varnas and the ashrams were nicely working together, and there was no issue. So I was remembering that as you were speaking from one of the verses in Bhagavatam.
Can you take it off the verse mode so I can see who's there? I can see anybody.
Yes, Prabhu. Let me actually, Vrinda, can you take off the share screen? Where's the kid? There we go.
Okay, let me see here. Okay, now I see. Haribo.
But yeah,
Yeah,
so as you were speaking, I was being reminded about that few verses that Prabhupada was mentioning about how perfectly Yudhishthira was running the kingdom. There was no shortage of anything. The cows were giving milk everywhere because the four varnas working nice with the four ashrams. Everything was going so beautiful. So I was just remembering that as you were speaking.
And then that's why Srila Prabhupada says that things are topsy-turvy now, because the Sudras are on the top. They're the most respected. Sudra means the musicians, the artisans, the technicians. See, we think IT is like the most intelligent class. It's intelligence for sure. But this technical society is a Sudra society. It's a working class society. So people, Prabhupada said, they get all this education and they go knocking on the door, please give me a job, please give me a job. That's Sudra. Because the Vaishya, he doesn't take a job, he creates his own income. So the Sudra, Vaishya, and the Kshatriya, right? Am I correct? Sudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya. So Kshatriya is the administrative class, and then the Brahmanas, the highest class. And the Brahmins live by their own preaching. What is that? What's the verse that tells about the Brahmin? I know the verse in the 18th chapter. Oh, Patan Patan, Yajan Yajan, Dana, like Dana means giving charity and receiving charity. So he lives by that, by the grace of the Lord, because he's understood Brahman, Supreme Lord is everywhere. And he goes, like I was just reading the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, so amazing. Dhruva Maharaj is 5 years old. He goes to the forest because his stepmother told him to go to the Lord. So she's actually the first guru to him. And then that's Suruchi. Then his mother Suniti, she confirmed it. But it's mentioned in the purport that his stepmother, who was causing the problem for him, she gave him the first spiritual instruction. And Dhruva is a 5-year-old boy who went to the forest. Now, the interesting point is his father, after realizing his mistake, after Dhruva finally comes back home, because he's thinking Dhruva is dead. A 5-year-old boy in the forest, he's definitely dead. But then Dhruva comes back. Now, what happens is the father, who's a Raja Rishi, he goes away to practice. So these are the symptoms of someone who's on that platform. They don't worry about where things are going to come from. They just depend on the Lord. But it's topsy-turvy. Because now the so-called intelligent class, which is the Brahminical class, are the technicians. And the technical society is a Sudra society. And when you have like musicians or the most respected people in the world in the Vedic culture, they're Sudras. Playing music. Hey, preacher, don't get mad at me, okay?
No, what you're saying is true.
But the point is, the society should be organized, as you said, Anasuya, in the proper way. And that way, everyone will be happy. Vishnu Aradha. But it should be done for the pleasure of Vishnu. The society now is not focused on pleasing God, period. Not focused on it. Even if they call themselves religious. Prabhupada mentioned that in his purports. Even someone who's studying the scriptures, following the scriptures, they still don't understand the Supreme Personality of God. You just ask any religious person, who is God? They'll try to divert to saying Jesus, but then not all Christians believe that. Catholics don't believe it, so on and so forth. Who is God? What does he look like? What does he sound like? What does he eat? Where does he sleep? Does he sleep? Does he have friends? Is he homeless? Come on. So because they don't have a clear understanding of God, society is topsy-turvy. It should be, the whole Varnashram system is meant to please the Supreme Lord. So that's why it's a perfect social construction, if you want to call it that.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Any questions from devotees? Any thoughts, clarification, any takeaways from this wonderful reading? It's so sweet. I had one more question.
Hey, sorry. Vishnu Vidal just arrived for our party.
Oh,
He's in there somewhere.
Haribol. Any questions from devotees?
No,
Any
these are
clarification?
devotees from Harrisburg. Go ahead. I see dear Krishna there.
Yeah, he's driving to a program somewhere. He's going for an appointment. But
Very
yeah,
nice, very
Prabhu,
nice.
I have one more question. As you were reading, this caught my attention where in the first two verses that you read, where
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada said the Brahma Samhita is specifies that Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead. So what crossed my mind, Prabhu? So is the Brahma Samhita not known to people, and that's why they don't know? Like in the Hindu religion, like is that book not available for them to know that it clearly says that the Lord is a supreme personality of Godhead?
Well, let's look at it from this perspective. Does everyone in India know that Lord Chaitanya is Supreme Personality of Godhead? No. Does everyone in India even believe that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead? No. Prabhupada very boldly said, even Gandhi did not believe in the person Krishna, because he talks in here about people who read the scriptures but don't accept Krishna. He's actually, I don't want to speak for him, but many times he referred to the fact that Gandhi did not see Krishna, although he had the Bhagavad Gita, talked from Bhagavad Gita. He did not accept Krishna's personality of Godhead. So most Hindus get very upset when they hear that, because Gandhi is held, and Prabhupada held Gandhi in the very highest. He was following Gandhi when he met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So he had great respect for Gandhi, but he also knew Gandhi did not accept Krishna as personality of Godhead, even though he's speaking from Bhagavad Gita. So to your point, no, not everyone knows about it. I didn't know. Did you know about Brahma Samhita before you came to Krishna consciousness? I mean, most
Was raised Christian. I missed that boat.
Most Hindus don't really know about Brahma Samhita. They don't, because it's one of those internal scriptures of the Vaishnavas and those who study about Krishna consciousness. Scholars know about it. Even scholars in the West, like university scholars who study Hinduism and all that, they know about Brahma Samhita. They know about more scriptures than you and me combined together, because that's what they study. Like when Hridayananda Maharaj went back to college, he was studying all those books from the acharyas that were at the university. So your point again, they don't know about Brahma Samhita. I can't say what percentage, but I know people don't even believe Krishna is Supreme Personality of God. What to speak of the verse that you're referring to? Ishwar Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sava Karna Karna. And what to speak of Vasudeva Sarvam, that verse in Bhagavad. So our work is enormous. It's a challenge to present Krishna consciousness or Krishna directly. That's why Srila Prabhupada refused to call this movement International Society for God Consciousness. Refused. Oh, it'll make it easier for you to communicate. No, because we want to present Krishna, Supreme Personality of God. That's in his 7 purposes as well.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Any questions from devotees? Any thoughts? I've been asking the questions. I didn't mean to take over the questions. Just crossed my mind as you were reading. Any other questions from devotees? Okay, if there isn't, we thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for making yourself available, even though you are in a different state. I just read the message like way too late. And thank you to all the devotees for joining us. Vanchakaptubhyascha Kripasundabevacha Patitanam Bhaktivyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Looking forward for the Kirtan fest.
Yes, looking forward to seeing